The Other Kids is about a group of small town teens who are they're seniors in high school and they're getting ready to vault forward into independence, into college or into the military or into an unknown future. And it's kind of about that moment when you've been told all of your life that this moment is coming. There's a lot of anticipation, a lot of suspense, and you're sort of terrified. And that's all. That's really what it's about. But the thing, I guess the twist is, in the way it was made, these are real teens, and the film was based on their real struggles. They're not actors. And the film developed sort of organically out of conversations with the kids to find out what's really going on in their lives and what are they really struggling with and what do they want to say and what do they want to deal with, what do they want to dig into, what do they want to explore in their lives. It's such a fertile moment, it's such a decisive moment when we're 16 to 18 and we're gaining independence but we don't yet have it. And it's so emotional and so extreme, and we haven't yet chosen sides. We haven't yet picked a camp. There's sort of a fluidity that's, to me, interesting and kind of vital. And it was personal. I mean, there's so many high school films that we all love and that are part of the canon and part of, classic high school films. But as much as I love some of those films, I've never seen myself in any of them. I've never seen my experience reflected in any of them. And I just wanted to make something that felt like my experience, something that felt like, that's the way I remember it, and something that felt true, and something that was a story that was told not by a middle-aged filmmaker, but was told by the actual 16 to 18-year-olds. So it didn't have this sort of veneer of melodrama or nostalgia or taking the genre and just reblending it and just reblending 100 other teen movies, 100 other high school movies. I wanted to just sort of sweep that aside entirely, pretend that no one had ever made a high school movie, pretend that I hadn't seen any high school movies, and start from zero, and just start from real kids. And so I went out to find real kids in this town, and I searched and searched and searched, and it was a big process. But I shot in this town called Sonora, California, which is about 140 miles east of San Francisco, where I live. It's just north of Yosemite National Park. So it's a little gold rush town that I love. And it's a strange town because you have these sort of 1850s, 1860s facades, this main street that's been virtually unchanged in 150 years. But then you've got these kids on skateboards, riding past them with mohawks. I'm like, that's interesting. What's it like to grow up here? You got the old and the modern, and what's happening? And that was sort of the kernel. That was sort of the kernel that started it. So I sort of camped out in this town, and there are two school systems, and I just approached both of them, and I told them, I want to do this thing. I've never really done this. This is how I envision it. And first they were like, what? Who is this guy and what does he want to do? But they kind of looked me up and they saw that they could see some of my other work. And okay, he's a real filmmaker. He's not just some nut. And I spoke to both boards and gave a talk. And I told them what I thought I knew and what I didn't know. I was totally honest about this approach, which I've never done before. Everything I've done so far has been, scripted very traditionally, planned very traditionally in a classic sort of cinema way. So this was new. So I just presented it to people, and they sort of said, yeah, go ahead, do it. Do it, you have access to the kids, you'll have access to the campuses. And that started it. So I sat in on classes, drama classes and art classes, and I watched them do exercises. And then I held a town-wide series of auditions, and just saw probably every eligible 16 to 18-year-old, in the town. And then I got this great group that just, we did exercises, and we sort of got to know each other and winnowed it down a little further. And these 8 kids sort of emerged as just, these stunning people. I love actors. I love actors, and I revere them. I respect them. I'm married to one. I'm always on the actor's side. I want to do whatever I can to help them and to lift them up and to give them whatever they need. And I feel that my job is to serve them and protect them. That sort of feeling of service and protection was amped up when you're dealing with people who are under 18. And this project was completely different in that there was no script. We were working off of conversations and improvs of things that I was setting up. I mean, we could go into that a bit. The process was, the film was born out of conversations, lots and lots of just personal conversations. And I would pair people up in ways and sort of set these scenes in motion, but not tell them where I wanted to go. And they would have to get there. They would have to find. And I was hoping for something with all these scenes. I was hoping, I think they're going to kind of go here. If I engineer it correctly, they'll kind of go here. And sometimes they went here, but sometimes they went there, and that was better. And I wanted to be surprised every time. I wanted to, as soon as the camera was turned on, I wanted to pretend that it was a documentary. And then my job was just, again, to serve the performance, serve the actors. They weren't there to serve the camera. I told them, don't just forget about the camera. I'll get to you. And some of them really were always, I was chasing them, and they were always closing themselves off and making it difficult. And it was wonderful, because often you'll get to a set, a traditional narrative set, and actors will always be perfectly aware of the camera, and even if it's some sort of a looser handheld kind of thing, they'll be open always to the camera, and it feels that way. It feels fakey. It feels staged. And this helped give it some sort of feeling of, this camera is not in the optimal place. Something's obscuring. We're constantly searching for focus and constantly searching for the frame and trying to find it. And I think that lent to some of the reality. This film, I can't even call it a collaboration, because it was more than that. The kids were very much in the driver's seat. The performers were creating the story. They weren't just serving my story. They weren't just reading my words. They were digging out from their own lives. This material was coming out of their own lives and their own struggles. So, whenever you deal with actors, you want to protect them, but like I was saying before, the level of protection rose, and I with these subjects, because they were a little more vulnerable and not used to the camera, not used to, and not necessarily always knowing the impact of what they were doing and saying. So I gave them final cut over everything, and said, if you say something, if you do something that you just don't want me to use for whatever reason, you're embarrassed or whatever, just tell me and I won't use it. And sometimes at the end of the day, or during the week, they would text me like, can we not use that thing? Because I don't want to really mention that thing. I said, sure. So that was out. And then at the end, they saw the final cut. I just got them together, and the parents wanted to come, everybody wanted to come, but it's like, no, it's really just for, sorry. And I asked them, if there's anything here that you want me to take out, I'll take out. And thank God they said no, but I would have taken it out if they wanted it out. And the only way that this could have worked is if they trusted me, and as if I, had been true to that trust and earned that trust. And that's the only way you can do it. And they were, it was just an honor to work with them. And now, of course, we're all extremely close and very close with their families. And I think often film crews kind of bulldoze through neighborhoods and people and hearts. And I think it's never been the kind of filmmaking that I've wanted to do. For me, every film sort of grows the family, grows the community. I'm kind of itchy about the state of narrative film right now, and I'm a little itchy about docs, because I feel like everybody's just, we're making a doc, and this is a documentary. This is a documentary. No, this is a narrative feature, and everybody just assumes the rules. Everybody just assumes the tools and the form, and then they just follow those cliches. They just stay right in the box. They don't question the form. And I don't look at filmmaking as you learn the tools, you gain mastery, and then you apply it. For me, it's almost like, for me, you have, with every film, I feel the need to make new tools and throw away what I thought I knew before and start over again. This is my first film, and I'm a kid again. I'm 10 years old, and I'm picking up a camera, and I'm doing this thing for the first time. And I think if you're not questioning the form and dealing with the form, you're totally missing out. You're not using this great lever, this magnificent sort of magic machine of cinema. It's not just about pointing the camera at people talking. Well, there is this craft aspect to filmmaking, whether it's shooting or cutting or working with people, working with light. And the truth is, we need those 10,000 hours of time or more to work with these things, to work with light and people and little bits of picture and sound. So even on the most inane, commercial, pay the rent kind of project, if you apply yourself and keep yourself open, you find that, I'm learning something. I didn't know that this plus this would equal that. I didn't know that you still, even with those day job projects, I love the process. I really love the process. And so I never feel like, here, we're going to do another one of these. We got to shoot this shot, because we always do that. We always put the light there, and we always cut here. And this is, I'm always kind of looking for different ways to do it, and sort of, I'm a light guy. The sun, I'm always sort of, look at the lights doing through the thing, and so I'm always trying to find, it's not even trying. I love the process so much of making film. It excites me so much. It excites me just the same way it excited me when I was 10. The very same way. It's magical to me, and so I get a bang out of seeing two images cut together. I really do, which sounds so nerdy, but it's true, whether it's film or any nonlinear system or anything. It's just, the process is still magical, and I don't quite understand it. It's still something I'm trying to grasp. It's still something I'm trying to, how did that happen, or why is that happening? This was something like my fourth feature, and I work in documentary too, but it always feels like the first time. Every time it feels like the first time for me. Again, it just starts with one-on-one conversations. And I'm asking about their lives and about what's going on and what are you dealing with right now. And early on I gave them each an assignment. I said, come back next week and just write down 2 ideas for 2 scenes that have something to do with struggles in your real life. It could just be 2 words on a page or whatever. Doesn't matter. No pressure. And the next week they came back with little ideas for scenes. You know, me talking to my dad about the divorce or whatever. You know. We didn't use any of those ideas. We didn't film any of that. But the core of their characters could be found in the scenes that they brought, because that told me a lot about who they were and what was going on. They opened themselves up there. And that started the discussion. And it started me thinking, okay, about arcs, and it got me thinking about, okay, this is maybe what's happening with this character, and maybe if we combine this character and that character, that would be interesting, and maybe this journey sort of hinges on this journey. And so that helped to start to loosely form the movie. It got me thinking, okay, so if I set up a scene like this, if I put these 2 characters together and they're doing this thing, and I sort of want this to happen, maybe it will. And in the beginning, I would be more directive and give goals and sometimes even give lines. And it was a disaster, total disaster. Things would be happening, life would be bubbling up, and then they'd get to the line that I told them to say, and everything would die. And it just came out like this phony, horrible nightmare. So, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. Trust them, they'll find it. And if I gave them that, like, I want to end up here, this is where I want the scene to go, they would just go right there. You know, they would give me what I wanted, because that all actors want to give the director what he or she wants. I didn't do that anymore either, because I wanted them to find their way either to where I thought I wanted to go, or to a better, truer, more interesting, more vital place. All the parents are the real parents of the kids, everybody. And they were, you know, they didn't sign up for it. The kids just started saying, well, we're doing this thing, do you want to participate? And some of them were most of them were shy. They're like, oh no, I'm going to ruin this. And you won't ruin it. Well, it'll be fine. It'll be fun. If it's bad, we'll redo it. And we'll do enough so you'll get comfortable. And so they played along. And one family, we got ready to shoot, and then they just disappeared. They got so nervous. They said, our neighbor is out of town, we have to go feed the cat. And they were gone for like 2 hours. I think just hoping we'd go away. And we just stuck around, you know. We just shot other stuff until they came back, and then shot one of the most moving scenes. It was always something between documentary and fiction. It was sort of, you know, taking the raw materials of the real world and then creating a fiction out of those materials. So it was always based in reality. So when we had parents and children together, we were trying to harness this real molten energy, this something that was really happening between them, things that they were really arguing about and struggling over. And over I heard, we've been trying to talk about this for a long time. And if you hadn't been in the room, we would have just blown up, and, you know, this person would have stormed that way, this person. But we kind of held it together because you forced us to deal with this. Yeah, it's something I didn't foresee at all, just the impact that the filmmaking process had on the subjects and their families and their lives. I think the film helped them take a look at aspects of their lives that they wouldn't have really scrutinized had the camera not been there. And also just giving people a free space to say, this is how I feel, this is what I do. And I wanted, you know, one sort of mission statement or one goal for me is to just open the door on these things that we try to hide. You know, we feel we're, oh, I'm so strange, right? No one else is, you know, oh, I do this, and we all do this. We all have these feelings. You're perfectly normal. And let's talk about it. Let's just talk about it. The more we talk about it, the more normal we'll all feel. So we don't have to pretend to be anything. And I think just that, oh yeah, I do this, and a lot of people do that, and it helped people sort of veer away from maybe destructive behaviors. It helped people be more confident in who they are, and just, yeah, that's not a defect, that's a feature, and I mean, this is a different subject, but it's a funny thing to me where filmmaking has been around for, narrative filmmaking has been around since the 1890s, and narrative film almost that long, but 120 years-ish. And the process of making films, narrative films, really hasn't changed that much. And the form hasn't really changed that much, and it really fascinates me. In that same span, if you look at other art forms, music, literature, sculpture, and visual arts, there have been multiple upheavals and multiple, sort of revolutions with it. But for some reason, we feel we've clung to this industrial model in filmmaking. And I think it works okay, just like it works to make bread via an industrial model. But there are other ways to do it. And there are probably as many ways to do it as there are filmmakers. And I think we should just start to think, and I'm not prescribing my method. My method for this film worked for me, but I think we should just think about that a little bit. Do we need all these people? Do we need all these trucks, really? Do we need all that? What's that about? Is that about jobs, or is it about convention, or is it about telling something that connects with a viewer? Is it about telling something that really matters to me? So yeah, I think narrative filmmaking really is undergoing a bit of a crisis. Certainly cinema on the big screen is in big crisis right now. And I think it's just time to reevaluate how films are made and what stories are told.